In a world ravaged by war, the actions of heroes can have world-altering stakes. The dragon armies are on the march, their ranks swelled by ogres, minotaurs, and humans who seek a share of the spoils. Experience the dragon army's initial invasion of the land of Solamnia, witness the creation of infamous flying citadels, and face off against the Death Knight, Lord Soth. Dragonlance, Shadow of the Dragon Queen is a tale of conflict and defiance set during the legendary War of the Lance. This adventure introduces the Dragonlance setting to the D&D 5th edition with a focus on the legendary War of the Lance. Here you will face off against the infamous Death Knight Lord Soth and his army of Draconians. Let us explore the story that unfolds in Dungeons & Dragons Dragonlance, Shadow of the Dragon Queen. Chapter 1 Introduction to Krynn. While every world's history is vast and fractured, with missing pieces and forgotten perspectives, Krynn's tale has been shattered by the global catastrophe called the Cataclysm. 300 years ago, the Cataclysm brought ruin to the world of Krynn. In a single day, an age of wonders came to an end. Countless innocents died, the face of the world was reshaped, and the gods themselves faded into legend. Through ages of struggle, the peoples of Krynn survived, but the world isn't what it was. Those nations that remain linger in the shadows of their ancestors' wonders. Only slowly have they begun to push back centuries of darkness and rediscover how the world has changed. Then came the dragon armies, legions of soldiers devoted to the wicked god Takisis, the Dragon Queen, and the world faces ruin once more. The War of the Lance has begun, and in a conflict between gods and dragons, a wounded world hangs in the balance. Chapter 2 Prelude to War. Your adventure begins with the recent death of a friend of yours named Espen Greenshield. Espen was a good-natured man from Solamnia. He took his name from a distinctive green shield he found early in his adventuring career. He claimed the shield was magical, but had no obvious magical properties. The big-hearted Espen loved telling tales of his travels to anyone who would listen. Espen used to adventure with a knight of Solamnia named Becklin and a hill dwarf named Cudgel. These two were featured in many of Espen's stories of fighting sea monsters and goblin raiders. Espen retired from traveling years ago, becoming a permanent resident of a little-known village in Solamnia called Vogler. An invitation has been recently sent out to you for his funeral. It reads, "Dear friends, I am Becklin Uth Viharin. I've heard much about you from our mutual friend, Espen Greenshield. It grieves me to share the news that our dear friend Espen passed away peacefully here at his home in Vogler. May fortune and the old gods protect his soul. Espen's friends are holding a memorial for him in the manner he always wanted. It will take place here in Vogler on the eve of the Kingfisher Festival. I write to ask you to do Espen one last honor and attend. Should you come, accommodations will be available at the Brass Crab. Though the circumstances are sad, I am eager to meet you and, through our memories, to revel in the life of our great friend, Becklin Uth Viharin, Knight of the Crown." After reading the letter, you accept the invitation and travel to the village of Vogler. Chapter 3 When Home Burns. At the edge of the Solamnic province of Hinterland, you visit the quiet fishing village of Vogler. The village's modest wooden buildings cluster around a quaint central circle and along the riverbank. You explore the town and witness the many villagers go about their day. Eventually, you meet Becklin Uth Viharin. Becklin is hard to miss as she's dressed in the full-plate armor and horned helmet of the Knights of Solamnia. Though she's never met you before, she recognizes you from Espen's descriptions. Becklin introduces herself, offers her condolences, and invites you to come with her to the Brass Crab, a local inn. The two of you indulge in the memories of your old friend until dusk arrives and the funeral begins. During the reception, you meet a few individuals of note. Ridomir Cudgel Ironsmile introduces herself to you as the leader of the Ironclad Regiment, mercenaries currently camped outside Vogler. Bakaris the Younger is a finely dressed local who came for the free ale but complains the entire time he is there. Lastly is a blue-skinned Sylvanasti elf named Ladira, who politely converses with you but is quite invasive when asked about how she knew Espen. Before you retire for the evening, Becklin approaches, thanks you for coming, and says she has something Espen left for you. She won't say what it is, but asks you to call on her at Thornwall Keep in the morning. You agree and head off to rest for the night. As the new day breaks, you begin to make the small walk towards Thornwall Keep, located at the edge of the town. The town is abuzz with festive energy this morning as locals set up stalls and hang decorations. "Good morning, Becklin's friends," comes a cheerful voice. From a shop doorway steps a young man no more than 20 years old. "I'm Derek, Becklin's student. Hope you haven't had breakfast already." Becklin has sent Derek to fetch baked hand pies from the Fishbowl, a local tavern, for the two of them and their guest. He encourages you to come with him on his errand. Derek gets a few opportunities to speak with you and is eager to do so. He tells you that he grew up in Vogler and that today is the day of the Kingfisher Festival. The annual festival celebrates the victory of the Knight of Solamnia, Lord Decatur Vogler, over the forces of the Empire of Istar. Mercenaries of the Ironclad Regiment, Cudgel Ironsmile's band, are training Vogler's small militia. They're also participating in a reenactment of the Battle of High Hill this afternoon. Once Derek stops at the Fishbowl and purchases a few hand pies, he leads you to Thornwall Keep. You arrive to the Thornwall Keep and see veins of bronze-colored ivy that cling to the keep's ancient 3-story stone tower. As you arrive, Becklin meets you at the door in a simple shirt and breeches, welcoming you inside. After a brief breakfast, Becklin excuses herself for a moment. When Becklin re-enters the room, she is carrying a shallow wooden box. She sets it down gently on a table. Becklin smiles at the memory as she opens the box, revealing a round green shield. She asks you to attend the festival and partake in Eastman's role in the reenactment of Battle of High Hill. You agree to do so in honor of your old friend, taking the shield for the role and begin traveling back into town. Derek eagerly decides to tag along with you to join you on the festives. When you return to the town, the Kingfisher Festival is in full swing. Happy villagers drift from their homes towards the sounds of laughter and upbeat music at the village circle. Colorful banners and paper decorations shaped like kingfishers decorate the village circle. "Welcome, friends," the mayor begins, raising her arms high. "Welcome to the Kingfisher Festival. Today is a day of not only revelry, but also reflection. We are all here thanks to the courage of heroes who came before us. Let us honor our founders, our family, and all those who can't be here to celebrate today. Enjoy your festival, Vogler, with good spirits, good times, and good friends, and look to the Kingfishers for good luck." An energetic round of cheers follows the mayor's words. With that, the Kingfisher Festival is officially underway. You partake in the festivities of the town and mingle with the townsfolk. Eventually, the Kingfisher Festival culminates in the annual reenactment of the Battle of High Hill. You travel there to partake in the mock battle. This year's reenactment is a little different than in past years. This mock battle reenacts the Knights of Solamnia's ancient victory over enemy forces from the eastern nation of Istar. The battle was led by Lord Vogler, a noble knight and the village's founder. This year, Mayor Raven arranged for a friend of the town, the mercenary leader Cudgel Ironsmile, to participate. Cudgel's ironclad regiment is playing the part of the invading Istarian forces. After much laughter and jostling, the mayor, Cudgel, and other spectators walk to a nearby vantage to watch. As they do, the militia takes up its position atop High Hill, the same hill Solamnic troops held centuries ago. Although the event is only a reenactment, a tingle of excitement fills the field. A moment later, a trumpet blast signals the start of the battle. The mock Istarian troops assault the hill. Around you, the Vogler militia charges to meet them. The unexpected sound of metal clashing on armor rings across the field, silencing laughter and melodramatic boast. A ribbon of red splashes over the grassy hill, followed by shocked screams. Any pretense of a reenactment shatters. High Hill is the site of a true battle once more. Within moments, all around you, armed mercenaries attack unprepared villagers fighting for their lives. Leading them is a half-orc named Dragonlance, who is part of Cudgel's mercenaries. You fend off the mercenaries' attack the best you can and defend the villagers, forcing them to retreat. The mercenaries' retreat is further motivated by the arrival of their horrified commander, Cudgel Ironsmile, along with Mayor Raven, Becklin, and several burly spectators. Mayor Raven thanks you for defending her people, fearing things would have gone far worse if you hadn't. As you and Mayor Raven speak, Cudgel Ironsmile seeks answers. While the battle was taking place, one of her own mercenaries appeared and attacked her, only to be killed by Becklin. It doesn't take her long to find Dragonlance, who was wounded but survived the battle. Mayor Raven has the traitor bound for the walk back to Vogler, where they can be interrogated. After the wounded are tended to, Mayor Raven and Becklin urges the villagers to return to Vogler so they can organize a proper response. After returning to Vogler, Mayor Raven, Cudgel, and Becklin ask you to join them at the Brass Crab. There, Mayor Raven informs you that she wants to understand why the Ironclad Regiment attacked. Clearly, Cudgel was betrayed, but why? You figure Gorgonis might have answers to these questions. Cudgel has only one concern though, discovering the fate of the rest of her troops. She plans to return to her camp once the traitor has been interrogated. If her mercenaries have betrayed her, she doesn't want anyone else walking into danger. You accompany Cudgel in interrogating the captured mercenary. Here, you learn that Gorgonis was attempting to kill Cudgel and replace her control in the Ironclad Regiment. Gorgonis was paid off in gold to do so, but he does not know who his benefactor was, only that they were hooded and wore black and red armor. Cudgel then heads out after hearing this information, intending on verifying the story at her camp. Returning to the mayor, she informs you that a significant military force is camped several miles northwest of the village. The force looks well organized, and the soldiers are a mix of humans and other hooded figures with wings and reptilian features. Cudgel then arrives to report on the situation at her camp, accompanied by her lieutenant, Jayev Weldrews. On her return, Cudgel found Jayev and other loyal mercenaries had heard of the events at High Hill. They had restrained several soldiers loyal to Gorgonis. Soon, someone arrives at the entrance of the village, alerting the villagers and causing a commotion. You come out to see what the fuss is about and see a human in black and red scale mail that sits astride an armored warhorse. She holds out a rolled parchment and calls out, "Who among you speaks for this village?" Mayor Raven steps forward and takes a letter from the individual. She then reads it out loud. "People of Vogler, by the orders of Balefian, the voice of Takhisis, you will quarter the sorters of the invincible Red Dragon army this night. Refuse and die. This is the Dragon Queen's will. You recognize the name Takhisis as one of the gods of Krynn, and that these soldiers must be the ones discovered nearby." Mayor Raven sees no other option than to do as the message demands and welcomes the Red Dragon army. Becklin and Cudgel immediately opposes this, having witnessed the horrors of occupying forces. Cudgel suggests using the remaining Ironclad regiment to defend the town of the army. You decide to station the Ironclad near the camp of the army while you try to evacuate the villagers from the oncoming fight. Hopefully, the city of Kalaman located down the river will be of safety. Becklin and Cudgel leave Vogler to join the Ironclad regiment while Darrett and Mayor Raven joins you in evacuating the villagers. As you are helping the villagers evacuate, a scout approaches Vogler, screaming that the Dragon army is arriving. It turns out that the Dragon army has split into two prongs, one to engage with the mercenaries and the second to head to the village. You hasten the evacuation and rush the villagers to the docks to board the escape boats. As you do so, the Dragon army arrives, burning all in its path. The screams of villagers still evacuating onto boats ring through the smoke of burning buildings. Among the screams rises an unbelievable word: dragon. Pitching this way and that, a black beast draws near the wharf, flames crackling from the beast's gaping maw. Despite its appearance, the thing nearing Vogler's wharf isn't a dragon. It's a boiler drag, a gnomish siege engine invented for the Red Dragon army. Eventually, you are able to get the rest of the villagers onto the boat when suddenly a rasped voice emerges from the smoke-shrouded street. "Hold the boat," it says. A man runs through the haze towards the wharf, clad in the armor of an Ironclad regiment mercenary and gripping a horned helmet in his hands. It is Cudgel's lieutenant, Jayev Weldrews. He says he's been sent by Becklin to pass on the following information. The battle with the Red Dragon army went poorly, but a few of the Ironclad regiment escaped. Becklin sent him to help everybody in the village safely evacuate and to ensure nobody waited for her and the mercenaries. More Dragon army forces are on his heels, and the villagers have to flee now. Wasting no more time, you escape Vogler on the last boat with Darrett, Mayor Raven, Jayev, and a few other locals. You look back towards the town as the boat departs. Vogler is in flames. Amid the columns of smoke rising from the village, invaders loot what remain. The villagers traveling with you don't look away, watching until their home is nothing more than a red-black smear along the river's edge. The evacuation boats carry all that remains of Vogler down the river Vingard toward an uncertain sanctuary in Kalaman. Chapter 4: Shadow of War. By dawn, the morning after evacuating from Vogler, you arrive within sight of Kalaman. The walled city of Kalaman rises in the distance, spreading across the southern shore of a wide bay. Ships sail to and from the city's walled harbor, their courses lit by a pair of towering beacons. On the shore ahead, where the Vingard River meets Kalaman Bay, dozens of survivors from Vogler have pulled their mismatched boats ashore and begun making camp. Soon after arriving on shore, you are informed that 2 prominent villagers are missing, Lord Bakaris and his son, Bakaris the Younger. A villager who reached the shore before you mentions that Lord Bakaris and his son headed to Kalaman hours ago, intent on addressing the city's leaders, but no one's heard back from them since. You decide it'd be best to enter Kalaman and investigate the whereabouts of the 2 missing villagers. Darrett decides to tag along with you, just in case you need any backup. After a 2-mile trek from the landing spot, you finally arrive to the city's entrance. Statues of Titanic soldiers line Kalaman's mighty walls. The gate guards halts you and ask your business. You ask about Lord Bakaris, and the guards point the way toward Castle Kalaman. You follow their directions and enter the city, making your way to the castle. The path to it rises up the cliffside overlooked by gigantic statues matching those that line the city's walls. As you cross Castle Kalaman's paved courtyard, a familiar figure intercepts you with an arrogant smile, Bakaris the Younger. "My father has matters well in hand," he says. "We'll be sure to send for you and the rest of the fish folk once we determine what's best for them." Bakaris the Younger halts you, insisting you shouldn't be allowed to disturb his father's audience with Kalaman's leaders. You brush off the young man and proceed onwards into the castle. When you arrive into the council chamber, you see 8 serious-looking people sitting around a broad table in the middle of a spacious hall. At the table's end, a tall man with plaited blonde hair and a velvet vest of blue and gold stands to greet you. "Welcome, guest. I'm Governor Kalof Miat. Your leader has briefed us on the situation in Volgar, his bold defense, and his eagerness to strike back against these invaders." As Miat says this, he nods to a man near him, Lord Bakaris, who glares at your intrusion. "Tell us," the governor continues, "are your people still preparing for battle?" It's clear from the governor's words and Lord Bakaris' expression that Bakaris is trying to advance his own agenda. Lord Bakaris told the council that the villagers are taking up arms to retake their home. You know this isn't the case though. Mayor Raven is focused on ensuring the villagers have food, security, and support in the days to come, and you are certain the refugees didn't appoint Lord Bakaris as their leader. You inform the governor of the misinformation and inform him of the truth of the situation. Governor Miat frowns. "This is all dire news. My heart goes out to your friends and family, but I hope you can understand our reverence to welcome you all through the city's gates. These aren't normal times." "Marshal?" The governor gestures to a stern woman wearing armor embellished with the blue and gold colors of Kalaman. She nods and begins. "I am Marshal Vendry, commander of Kalaman's military forces. I'm afraid your situation is far from unique." Marshal Vendry goes on to explain that Vogler isn't the only community in the region to face peril. Small villages and farms to the south and east of Kalaman have been burned in recent weeks. Vogler is the largest community to be attacked and the only one with many survivors. Once you have heard the marshal's report, the governor asks you to step outside while the council discusses what they've learned. Lord Bakaris, however, isn't asked to leave. After half an hour, the council meeting adjourns. The chamber's doors open, and most of the council members file past you without a glance. Marshal Vendry beckons to you from the door, while inside, Governor Miat and Lord Bakaris remain seated. In a decisive tone, Governor Miat says, "The citizens of Kalaman are prepared to offer your people shelter in the neighborhoods outside the city walls in protection of our soldiers, and, while we can spare it, food from our tables." He folds his hands and fixes his eyes on you. There is a condition though. He goes on to explain that Kalaman's leaders are concerned about the threat posed by the enemy that attacked Vogler. The city has woefully little information about this foe, and the scouts sent to learn more have all disappeared. You, however, both faced this foe and saved an entire village from its attack. In return for Kalaman protecting the people of Vogler, Kalaman's leaders want you and Darrett to report to Marshal Vendry as special operatives in the Kalaman military. You and Darrett agree to the terms, and Governor Miat is pleased. He orders that Vogler's people be provided with food and supplies. Marshal Vendry dispatches guards to help the refugees relocate to lodgings outside the trade gate. With that, the meeting with Kalaman's leaders conclude. Marshal Vendry asks Darrett and you to come to her office on the second floor of Castle Kalaman when you're ready to learn more about your position and first duties. When you return to where Vogler's survivors are camped, Mayor Raven meets you, thanking you profusely. After hearing that you and Darrett agreed to aid Kalaman's military, Raven says she and the survivors of Vogler's militia intend to offer their assistance as well. She also asks you to stop calling her mayor. So long as Vogler is in the Dragon Army's hands, she's just Raven. Once you are ready to begin work with Kalaman's military, you report to Castle Kalaman and head to Marshal Vendry's office. Vendry stands as you enter. "Thank you for coming," she says. Vendry shares that you are expected to serve as a specialized squad dedicated to meeting challenges other troops can't address. She is still working out the details of your first assignment and recommends you retire on the 4th floor. You take your leave and head to the 4th floor, where you find your lodging and settle in. As you settle in, Darrett enters, greeting you warmly. He tells you that he has spent much of the morning demonstrating his training to Marshal Vendry and her commanders. Vendry was pleased and ordered him to work with her to train a new unit of Kalaman soldiers. Vendry also assigned him to work with you. He's not your commander, but he'll serve as Vendry's envoy, delivering her orders to you, and if needed, he can advocate for you with Vendry and Kalaman's leaders. Darrett then thanks you for all you've done for him and Vogler. He takes his leave after informing you of his situation and you rest for the night. The next morning, Darrett meets you and relays the following orders from Marshal Vendry. Kalaman's leadership is disturbed to hear about the Dragonlight invention the Red Dragon Army deployed in Vogler. They want to know more about it. 12 miles south of Kalaman lives a gnome inventor named Tatina Rukoldas. Vendry wants you to go to Rukoldas' home and see if she knows anything about this device or similar ones. Even if Rukoldas knows nothing, Kalaman's forces would like to meet with her in the city to recruit her as an advisor. Darrett doesn't know much more than this, but he provides you with directions to Rukoldas' home. You leave the castle and head to Rukoldas' home to conduct your first mission. On a hill stands an unusual structure that resembles both a cottage and a metal fortress. The building bristles with steaming pipes and warring devices, and it is currently under siege. Amid clanging metal contraptions, goblins try to breach the structure, impeded by gadgets that spin, snap, and thrash in the yard. Every few moments, a gnome appears from an open clock face above the door and hucks a new clockwork calamity at the attackers while cackling and yelling insults. You aid in fending off the goblins and capture a few of them to interrogate. The goblinoids inform you that they are members of the Red Dragon Army. Their commanders sent them here to get a weapon. They don't know much about their leaders, only that they are humans and they pay them well. Once you have gathered enough information, Tatina Rukoldas appears through an open aperture above her workshop's door. She verifies that you're not working with the Dragon Army before coming out of her house to have a proper conversation. Several weeks ago, a stranger in red and black armor asked to purchase her weed-clearing device, but with some modifications to make it resemble a mythical dragon. She agreed. Unbeknownst to her, the stranger was a Dragon Army agent, and the device was the boiler dragon used in Vogler. The stranger also hired her to design another device, which he was supposed to pick up today. Instead, the goblinoid showed up and demanded she turn over the weapons. Realizing the stranger was using her devices for malign reasons, she refused to hand over her inventions. The goblinoids then attacked. She's happy to come with you to Kalaman and insist on giving you her newest invention, the Fargab. It is a device created for long-distance communication. After giving you the Fargab, Rukoldas accompanies you to Kalaman. The journey back to the city is uneventful. The city leaders welcome Rukoldas as their guest and give her comfortable lodgings. In the coming days, you join in on various missions for Kalaman, aiding them against the Red Dragon Army force. Soon, you get a request from Darrett to retake Wheelwatch from the Red Dragon Army, Kalaman's southernmost outpost. He also informs you that Raven has been aiding Kalaman's military. She was given command of a force to retake the outpost, but that force is small and inexperienced. Darrett asks you to join Raven and support her in retaking the fort, arranging a meeting between you and Raven later that day. Raven suggests to slip into the fort and open a gate without raising the alarms. You agree to do so and make your way to the fort once you are ready. You traverse through the fort and eventually open the gate, thus allowing Raven's army to march in and capture the fort. Afterwards, Raven suggests you return to Kalaman with a letter informing Marshal Vendry of their victory. The trip from Wheelwatch back to Kalaman is uneventful. On your return to Castle Kalaman, you notice that the castle is unusually quiet. When you report to Marshal Vendry's office, an aide informs you that the marshal is away from Kalaman. After you left Kalaman, the city council got word that a contingent of dragon army troops had broken away from the larger force. Tired of measured steps, members of Kalaman's leadership, spurred by Lord Bakaris, demanded Kalaman's military ride out to see its victory. With Marshal Vendry away leading troops further west, Governor Miat approved the strike. Lord Bakaris and his son are leading the attack, with Darrett serving under them. They plan to ambush the Red Dragon army near a crossing in the Inkwater called Steel Springs, 30 miles west of Kalaman. The aide knows nothing more, but before you leave, the aide secretly slips you a sealed note signed by Darrett that reads as follows. Come at once. Bakaris is leading us to ruin at Steel Springs. He's the commander of this mission and I can't disobey. I'll do what I can, but I need your help. With that concerning note, you rush off to the Steel Springs to aid your friend in need. As the brook called the Inkwater comes into view, smoke rises over the tree line beyond it. Wounded Kalaman soldiers stagger from the trees, heading toward a narrow crossing that lies in your direction. The Dragon Army soldiers give chase on horseback. You fend off the Dragon Army soldiers, barely giving your allies room to make their retreat. From among the allies, a dozen mounted soldiers gallop from the tree line, rushing south towards the crossing. Kalaman's colors are visible on these soldiers' armors, despite the dents and stains of battle. It's easy to pick out Darrett among these riders in his distinctive Salamnic armor. Another figure sits behind Darrett, sharing his steed. It is Lord Bakaris. Darrett spots you and says the Dragon Army's forces overwhelm Kalaman's troops and are in pursuit. He urges you to follow him to a fallback point to the east. Once there, Darrett explains the following details. Lord Bakaris ordered an assault on the Dragon Army forces, unaware of their reinforcements nearby. The battle swiftly sprung against Kalaman's forces. Darrett and the other commanders ordered a swift withdrawal, saving many lives. The Dragon Army doesn't seem to be pursuing the retreating troops. In the retreat, forces commanded by Bakaris the Younger were overwhelmed. Bakaris the Younger is unaccounted for and believed dead. Lord Bakaris is in a state of shock. Darrett has word that Marshal Vendry's forces are traveling from the west to protect the city. Darrett, the de facto leader of the retreating forces, lets the troops rest overnight. He suggests you rest along with them. The next morning, he encourages you to ride ahead to Kalaman to inform Governor Miat of what happened while the surviving troops rendezvous with Marshal Vendry on the way to Kalaman. You accept your orders and ride off back to Kalaman. As you approach the city, a crowd mills at the gate ahead. You find out that an hour ago, a retinue of Knights of Salamnia entered the city and headed to the Castle Kalaman. The knights aren't well liked in Kalaman, but at this point, any allies are welcomed. The lead knight's name was Knight Caradoc. He was a charming man with a message for the governor. Knight Caradoc entered with at least a dozen heavily armed knights, like something out of a story. The locals say that they were surprised by some of the knight's armor. It was tarnished in a way that Knights of Salamnia from old stories would surely have avoided. You press through the crowd and enter Castle Kalaman's courtyard to report your findings. Near the covered cloister leading to the city's council conference rooms are two heavily armored knights of Salamnia on horseback. One of them holds a banner bearing a prominent rose emblem. As you near the chamber, the halls are empty. The council chamber's door stands ajar, and its guard is absent. A scene of slaughter spills across the council chamber. Several guards wearing the colors of Kalaman's soldiers lie tangled amid skeletal remains and tarnished Salamnic armor. The bloody bodies of Kalaman's council members slump in high-backed chairs and across the room's large table. At a position of honor opposite the door, Governor Kalaf Miat's body is transfixed to his chair, a gleaming longsword piercing his chest. Next to the governor's body, a man in Salamnic armor rocks back in the chair. He props his booted feet on the table as he balances a scroll on one finger. Noticing you, the knight stands, clears his throat, and bombastically declares, "Hail, friends, and fear not, your heroes have arrived. I, Knight Caradoc, bring word that the Knights of Salamnia are, at this very moment, en route with all manner of pomp and mustache wax and whatever else they bother with these days." He gestures at the corpses in the room. "Do try to contain yourselves better than this lot did." You recall that Caradoc was the name of a knight of the Order of Rose who died during the Cataclysm. You battle with Caradoc as he taunts and mocks you. Once his knight form is defeated, Caradoc rises in his true incorporeal form. He continues to attack you until he is destroyed, but before vanishing, Caradoc promises you he'll see you again. Once Caradoc is defeated, you get a better look at the scroll he was holding. Its slightly scorched parchment is sealed by black wax with a rose emblem stamped into it and reads, "People of Kalaman, I exert my rightful claim as ruler of the province of Nightland. Submit or flee. Lord Loren Soth, Knight of the Rose. You recall that Lord Soth was a Knight of Solamnia of the Order of the Rose. The gods gave Soth the opportunity to redeem himself and prevent the cataclysm, but he didn't complete his quest and the cataclysm occurred. Soth's failure contributed to the widespread distrust of the Knights of Solamnia. Moments after Caradoc is defeated, a blue-skinned elf appears from a corner of the chamber. You recognize her as Lidara, an individual that was present at the funeral of Eatspin. "You must hurry on," the elf says, pointing to a shattered door at the rear of the chamber. "There's a secret beneath this castle, one the old lord can't be allowed to possess." Beyond the broken door in the council chamber lies a narrow corridor used by servants. A doorframe sculpted with somber night stands in an alcove along this corridor. You travel through the passage and descend into the catacombs that lie beneath Castle Kalaman, engulfed in violet flames. Within the catacombs, you find evidence of Lord Soth having recently passed by these catacombs moments before you have. Eventually, you come upon a tomb of a deceased hero named Sarlamir. It bears the word Zanus Salamir, Knight of the Crown. Bursting open from the tomb is the animated skeletal knight Salamir. Sarlamir speaks as he attacks. In a hollow voice, the armored skeleton proclaims the following. The cursed knight Lord Soth calls to Salamir through the haunted flames of the cataclysm. He is commanded to slay those who would oppose Soth. Soth beckons Salamir to follow him north, back to the place of his dishonor, the place in the northern waste called the City of Lost Names. As soon as Salamir is defeated, the violet flames around his weapon and elsewhere in the catacombs dim, then vanish. Once the flames fade, the catacombs return to normal. All that is left is a Dragonlance that is left behind from Salamir's tomb, which you take along with you. By the time you emerge from the catacombs, the council room's carnage has been mostly cleared. Several hours later, Darrett arrives in Kalaman with Marshal Vendry, Lord Bakaris, and the bulk of the city's martial forces. They're shocked to learn what happened. Marshal Vendry moves swiftly to keep order in the city and ensure no more attacks are forthcoming. At the same time, Darrett seeks you out to learn more. He pays particular interest to what you have to say about Lord Soth and the City of Lost Names. Chapter 5. The Northern Waste. Soon after you emerge from the catacombs beneath Castle Kalaman, Darrett and Marshal Vendry return to Kalaman with their troops. As they learn about the attack on the city, Darrett urges you to rest. He sends scouts to learn where Lord Soth and his retinue went after fleeing the city. The following day, Darrett meets you with the following news. Marshal Vendry is working to maintain order in Kalaman until new civilian leaders are appointed. She wants to speak with you soon. Darrett's scouts have reported the Red Dragon Army has split its forces. A contingent is inexplicably heading into the Northern Waste. Once you are ready, Darrett leads you to meet with Marshal Vendry. Marshal Vendry has claimed a modest meeting room down the hall from the council chamber marred by Lord Soth's attack. The room holds little more than a long table covered in reports, though tall windows offer a stunning view of the city and harbor beyond. The Marshal stands by a window, gazing towards the horizon. From a seat at the table, Lord Bakaris glances at you, then bitterly observes. "Here they are now, Marshal. Perhaps if we hadn't put our faith in sellswords, my son would be at my side and the governor would still be alive." Soon after his grumbling, Vendry invites him to leave and the noble grudgingly complies. Afterwards, Vendry asks you to explain what happened the day before, including how the governor died. You divulge as much information as you know to Vendry. Vendry informs you that she trusts you, but Lord Bakaris is spreading rumors that you could have saved Kalaman's leaders. Some locals are looking for someone to blame for their terrifying slaughter. Though Darrett doesn't understand Lord Soth's cryptic goals, he believes your discoveries are important. The Marshal feels otherwise, believing Kalaman's military should focus on fighting nearby Dragon Army forces and restoring Kalaman's government. With Darrett's support, you make the case that Lord Soth is a threat and the Dragon Army's plans in the north shouldn't be taken lightly. Vendry eventually relents. Darrett then asks Vendry to let him take a contingent of troops with you into the northern waste to investigate whatever the Dragon Army wants there. While Vendry isn't confident the move is strategically sound, she thinks it's a good idea for you to get out of Kalaman for a while to avoid the ire of its citizens. To avoid drawing the attention of the Dragon Army, Vendry has ordered a few ships to ferry Darrett's troops across Kalaman Bay at night. From there, you are to discover the Dragon Army's plot and thwart it. With that, you make your way to the docks and begin to board your ship. Water sloshes and wood creaks as ships depart from Kalaman's docks in the dead of night. Citizens gathered to bid farewell to loved ones soon fade from view. The ship cuts through the dark waters of Kalaman Bay, sailing to perilous shores under cloudy skies. After crossing Kalaman Bay, your ship arrives near Wrecker's Edge. You eventually make it to shore, where you find an elf by the name of Dalamar. Dalamar is a part of a contingent of Sylvanasti elves and is surveying the coast for ancient ruins. He knows there are none here, but his leader, Zesuel, wants him to search thoroughly anyways. Dalamar then invites you to return with him to his group at the Elven encampment. Here you meet Zesuel, who confronts Dalamar once you arrive. He wants nothing to do with outsiders and sees you as an obstacle to the Elven progress. Zesuel tells you that he and the rest of the elves are conducting research, but he refuses to elaborate. After being told to see you away, Dalamar shares with you that the elves recently spotted Dragon Army soldiers headed north. Dalamar doesn't know their destination, but he suspects they're not just wandering. You ask Dalamar about the City of Lost Names. He tells you that he learned of the city from the Sylvanasti writings that led him and the other elves to this region. Though he doesn't know its location, he's interested in finding it. He points you to sites in the northern wastes he has already identified as being related to the City of Lost Names. With your reports about whatever magic remains at those sites, he should be able to glean more information about the city's location. You travel to a few of those sites and gather information on the magic of each and relay them to Dalamar. Along the way, you meet an individual by the name of Klystron who helps you traverse the northern waste. With information gathered, Dalamar relays to you the location of the City of Lost Names. You return to the troops and inform Darrett that you have located the City of Lost Names. Together, you venture forward towards its location. As you approach the City of Lost Names, you see a vast plateau that rises from the waste, its ancient cliffs soaring hundreds of feet high. This is known as Wind's End. Countless red tents spill from the canyon and its gates. Innumerable Dragon Army troops swarm the land, while patrols of Dragonels soar above. Darrett decides that he will lead an attack on the Dragon Army in the area as a distraction for you to sneak into the city. Agreeing to his daring plan, you infiltrate the location and enter a passage that leads into the City of Lost Names. Chapter 6: City of Lost Names. The passage from Wind's End runs through ancient stone, winding through darkness alive with skittering insects. You traverse through the tunnels and eventually enter an apartment belonging to a wizard. A hooded crimson-robed figure steps through a door from the east and gives you a calm nod. From behind a bleached skull mask speaks a smooth voice. "Ah, welcome. Let's get to the assessment then." The robed figure holds out a blue gem, which then shatters. An instant later, an air elemental with an outline resembling a dragon appears and attacks you. The figure stands back and watches until the elemental is defeated. Afterwards, the robed figure pushes her hood and removes her skull mask, revealing the features of an elven woman. "Forgive the rough welcome," she says, "but it was necessary to appraise your abilities. I am Demolin, High Wizard of Anyari. You're not the first visitors my fallen city has had in recent days. I fear that although my home has been suddenly remembered, its lessons have not." Demolin wishes to evict all strangers from the City of Lost Names and ensure the city never flies again. She shares what she's seen of the invaders' movements. Patrols of soldiers and monsters roam the city, focusing much of their activity on the threshold of the heavens at the city's center. Troops also frequently come and go from a sizable mansion that lies along the road to the threshold. She suspects the latter is a command post. Demolin explains the threshold of the heavens is where the city's flying magic was controlled. During a conflict called the Third Dragon War, many generations before the Cataclysm, the hero Huma Dragonbane defeated Takesis and prevented her conquest of Krynn. When the Dragon Queen left the world, her wicked dragon servants went with her. Centuries passed, and in that time, a king priest rose to power in the land of Istar. The king priest and his servants created a great flying island. He named this aerial city Anyari, the city without sin. The city was constructed on an ancient sacred site where for millennia, dragons of Krynn had gone to die. The king priest harnessed the magical resonance of the dragons buried there, lifting the city into the sky. When the metallic dragons remaining on Krynn learned the king priest had desecrated the resting place of their dead, they were furious. Though some dragons urged a more moderate path, the gold dragon, Caravarix, refused to hold back. He led a contingent of metallic dragons to the soaring city, intent on forcing it to land. The god Paladine tasked the Knight of Solamnia, Zanis Salamar, with peaceably ending the conflict between the dragons and the king priest. However, Salamar's quest was a dismal failure, ultimately resulting in the knight attacking and killing Caravarix. The resulting battle between the dragons and Anyari's people ended in Salamar's death and the city's ruin. The flying city fell apart across the northern ways, its bulk ultimately crashing in the hidden depression where it now lies. You present to Demelin the Dragonlance of Knight Sarlamar and ask her if she knows anything more about it. She tells you that it's Sarlamar's Dragonlance, which Paladine cursed after the knight slew the gold dragon Caravarix. She doesn't think its reappearance is a coincidence, and she encourages you to seek out the Temple of Paladine. You thank her for the information and step forth through a door in her apartment that leads to the City of Lost Names. A glittering city of broken domes and jagged towers stretches before you. The nearby buildings and streets slope down into the basin of a vast ruin-filled crater. To the southwest, the crack of shearing stones sounds from a distant temple whose grounds teem with troops. On the temple's roof, a figure holds aloft a scepter crackling with familiar violet flame. A moment later, a skeletal dragon scales the temple and unleashes a screech that echoes across the city. It pauses before the figure, who climbs onto the undead terror's back. Together, they rise into the air and circle the city before flying south and out of sight. You recognize this rider as Lord Soth. To learn more of the plans of the dragon army, you make your way to a ruined mansion that is being used as a field command post. From here, you learn that the commander of the Red Dragon army, Dragon High Master Kalsaldi Fireeyes, isn't in the City of Lost Names. The commanders Belaphion and Loset lead this contingent of the Red Dragon army. When you have gathered enough information, you leave the command post and make your way to the Temple of Paladine to learn more of the Dragonlance and its curse. In the temple, you restore the Dragonlance of Sarlamir into its former glory and learn that the spear may aid in the fight against the Dragon Queen. The last location you visit is the Threshold of the Heavens, which lies at the center of the city. Here you meet Loset and Belaphion. You learn from Loset that while he works for the Dragon Army, he doesn't care about their goals. He just wishes to use them to support his research. Belaphion, who is currently in the chamber above, is a fanatical worshipper of the Dragon Queen. If you slay Belaphion, Loset will leave the city without complaint. You agree to Loset's deal and travel up to the structure to face Belaphion. Seated on a throne is a human man dressed in crimson robes and wearing a crown bearing the Dragon Queen's symbol. This is Belaphion. "It seems Loset has been finally dealt with," he says. The man on the throne brings his hand down on a crimson jewel on the throne's arm. He begins to announce, "No more need for his incessant human cautiousness. Glory will be mine alone. It is the Dragon Queen's will." The jewels on the throne pulse. Beneath you, the floor lurches. Soon, the City of Lost Names lifts into the air, but different parts of the ruins rise at different rates, tearing the city apart. Then, Belaphion turns into a mighty blue dragon and begins to attack you. You engage with the dragon and manage to defeat him. Unfortunately, the shaking underfoot continues. The floor under you slants as the tower begins to slowly lean. Now, it is time to escape. You rush out of the tower and find yourself amid disaster as ragged stone islands and crumbling buildings rise into the sky. Chaos confounds the Dragon Army troops throughout the city. To the south, violet flame lights the sky. At its center, a solid island rises, its stone foundations riddled with monstrous bones. The island bears an ominous temple. As you watch, the undead dragon ridden by Lord Soth returns, and the two circle this blazing flying citadel. You traverse the crumbling city and head back to the surface, where you reunite with Darrett and his soldiers. Together, you slip away from the location before things can get worse. As the cliffs surrounding the City of Lost Names grow distant, their redstone walls take on a violet hue. A floating island drifts over them, crowned by a terrifying temple smoldering with cataclysmic flames. The flying citadel baffles and terrifies Kalaman's forces, but Darrett urges them to calm as the army focuses on escaping. He wants to know all about the flying citadel, but he delays that conversation until the army is well out of its sight. For the moment, his focus is ensuring the safety of his troops and alerting Kalaman's defenders about this terrible new weapon. Chapter 7: Siege of Kalaman. While the Red Dragon army recovers from the destruction of the City of Lost Names, Darrett and the troops from Kalaman retreat and make camp a safe distance away. In the distance, a constellation of rocks float in the air, some the size of islands, others little more than boulders. The island holds aloft a sinister temple with otherworldly violet light gleaming from its cracked walls. After a brief moment, Darrett addresses you and asks what you have seen in the City of Lost Names. After you share what you know, Darrett suggests you hasten to Kalaman to fill in Marshal Ventry of this threat. Darrett will stay and lead the troops back himself. You accept your instructions and begin your trek back to the ships at the coast. When you're about a day away from reaching the ships, you see 3 crimson dragonels that appear in the sky, bearing riders in the Dragon Army armor. They pursue a 4th dragonel, but this one has no rider, and its scales are of coppery hue. A Dragon Army rider whips a net at their desperately fleeing quarry, and the unfortunate creature tumbles from the sky, crashing near you. You aid the Dragonelle and fight off the Dragon Army troops. Afterwards, you remove the net and the Dragonelle flies off. You continue your journey back to the ships and from there, sail back to Kalaman and promptly enter the castle. You approach the castle's council chamber and enter the room, searching for Marshal Vendry. Marshal Vendry and Lord Baccaris sit at the table, along with various bickering strangers who wear the colors of Kalaman guilds. Opposite the door, a woman in simple clothes sits in the governor's chair, watching the proceedings with uncertainty. Marshal Vendry sees you and stands, surprise clear on her face. Vendry calls for silence and welcomes you, thinking you were lost on your journey. She's eager to hear your private report on what happened in the Northern Waste. Before Vendry can leave with you though, Lord Baccaris demands the entire council hear whatever news you bring. Governor Thren, the woman in the governor's chair and the newly appointed governor, hesitantly agrees and Vendry reluctantly gestures for you to report. You tell your story and answer as many questions as you can. Afterwards, Vendry bids you to rest in your quarters. Days pass as the city prepares to face the flying fortress of the Dragon Army. Scouts have returned to the city with news. A flying citadel has been spotted to the northwest of the city. Beneath it, the Red Dragon Army has begun to march towards Kalaman. This news ushers in an uneasy day of waiting as the city braces for battle. On that day, you notice a Dragonelle ridden by two figures flying over the city toward the spires of Castle Kalaman. Concerned with the sight, you head to the castle to find that the riders of the Dragonelle are Klystron and Darret. Additionally, the Dragonelle is the one you had rescued on your journey in the Northern Waste. Klystron and Darret are pleased to see you and have the following information to share. Not long after parting ways with you, Klystron found this Dragonelle. It was friendly and allowed Klystron to ride it. Klystron and the Dragonelle managed to soar close to the flying citadel. Tunnels riddled the citadel's base. Eerie lights suggest they connect with the temple above. Klystron found Darret and offered him a ride home once the Kalaman soldiers were safely aboard the ships. Several other friendly wasteland Dragonelles followed Klystron and Darret to Kalaman, but they broke off once the city came within sight. Together, you form a plan to infiltrate the flying citadel when it eventually attacks the city of Kalaman. Klystron will search for the other Dragonelles in the area to help you during the attack. With the aid of the Dragonelles, you will slip into the many tunnels of the citadel and figure it out from there. Certainly not the best plan, but it will do for now. With that, Klystron flies off and begins his search. As dusk approaches, the defenders on Kalaman's western wall sound an alarm. The Red Dragon Army and its flying citadel draw near. All of Kalaman's soldiers are called to defensive positions. When the alarm rings out, Darret finds you and takes you to the trade gate. The west-facing ramparts of the trade gate are abuzz with soldiers rushing reports in and out. Amid the activity stands Marshal Vendry, issuing sharp commands to an endless array of lieutenants. Every so often, the Marshal's gaze passes through the tangle of soldiers to the field beyond the walls. There, thousands of soldiers in red and black raise the Dragon's army's camp, beyond the reach of Kalaman's defenders. War machines roll into position between crimson banners bearing the Dragon Queen's claw-like symbol. Above, Dragonelles swarm in rigid formations alongside the Dragon Army's most terrifying weapon, the Flying Citadel. As it drifts into place above the battlefield, reanimated corpses of ancient dragons circle the ruins, glowing with the same terrible light as the temple itself. Marshal Vendry asks you to stay on hand to solve whatever emergencies are sure to arise. You tell Vendry of your plan to infiltrate the castle and she agrees with it. In the meantime, you stay up the rest of the night and defend the town from any potential threats. During that night, a messenger arrives, seeking you at Vendry's orders. The messenger reports the warrior's gate on the east wall is unguarded. Vendry urges you to quickly find out what happened. When you arrive at the gate, you find that the warrior's gate stands open, though its portcullis remains closed. No guards are in sight, and beside the gate, the guard's room door is ajar. On the other side of the portcullis, several figures wearing Dragon Army uniforms pace back and forth. As you near the gate, the portcullis begins to rise. The portcullis rises jerkily, and after a few moments, it will be high enough to admit a group of Dragon Army officers into the city. You hastily make your way to the guard room adjacent to the gate. There you find the anxious Lord Baccaris, accompanied by 6 knights in Kalaman armor. One of the knights turns a winch, raising the portcullis outside. Lord Baccaris is defecting to the Dragon Army, and has convinced these knights to come with him. The cowardly lord is terrified of the invasion and is convinced everyone in Kalaman is about to be slaughtered. After a moment of shock at seeing you, he orders the knights to attack you. You defeat the knights and capture Lord Baccaris. In his pockets, you find a note that says, "Father, the Dragon Army sends this greeting and a proposition. Avoid the doom in store for Kalaman. Meet our agents at the Warrior's Gate. Open the way, and they'll bring you to me. I found a place here, and have been promised a share of the glories to come." You can have the same if you embrace the Dragon Queen's will. The noble family's betrayal is evident with this piece of information. After a brief lull in the initial attacks on Kalaman, the Red Dragon army unleashes its wrath on the city. The siege of Kalaman has begun. Thousands of Dragon army troops march on the city. Along the walls, Kalaman soldiers shout commands while ballistae fire in rapid percussion. Soon, a scout rushes to you with a message. Only minutes ago, a small group of coppery dragonels landed in a grove southwest of the city. Figuring that to be your cue, you make your way to the location that the dragonels have been spotted. When you reach the location, it's apparent that Kalaman's scout weren't the only one to notice Krynn and his dragonels. The grove ahead is in flames. From amid the smoke comes the sound of bestial screeching. Red dragons emerge and begin to attack all in sight. You defeat the red dragons and regroup with Krynn, who introduces you to the Wasteland Dragonels. Krynn is eager to leave the grove before the dragon army attacks again. He hopes the dragonels can slip past the dragon army's winged forces amid the chaos. Krynn intends to lead you to the tunnels and the foundation of the Flying Citadel. He urges you not to attack during the flight or otherwise draw attention to yourself. Once you land on the Citadel, it'll be up to you to find a way to bring it down. Krynn doesn't know how you'll escape after destroying the Flying Citadel, but he promises to watch from a distance. Once Krynn has filled you in, the two of you mount your dragonels and take off. As you soar above the battlefield, the clash between the dragon army and Kalaman's defenders rages below. When you near the Flying Citadel, two shapes emerge from the dark clouds drifting in its wake. A pair of bright red dragonels slash through the air, their riders guiding them directly towards you. Coming for you is Red Ruin, the Red Dragon Army's ace Dragonel rider, and Bakaris the Younger, the son of Lord Bakaris. Once Bakaris and Red Ruin are defeated, Krynn urges you to follow him directly to the Citadel. The Flying Citadel rises upon a verdant mountain of black stone and exposed dragon bones. Fissures riddle this foundation, creating tunnels that extend deep into the rock. You land in the tunnel and dismount the Dragonel, rushing off into the Citadel to find a way to end this machine. Through your exploration of the Citadel, you encounter Lidara, the blue-skinned elf, once more. She tells you that Lord Soth lurks in the ruins above. He's using the cataclysmic fire from Kalaman's catacombs to control the Flying Citadel. If you can quell the cataclysmic fire, the Flying Citadel will fall. Hidden somewhere in the chambers above is an elven relic known as the Mirror of Reflected Past. Lidara believes the mirror can distract Soth, giving you a chance to extinguish the cataclysmic fire. You question why she's been aiding you all this time, and Lidara reveals her true ghostly form. She explains that in life, she was one of the elven priestess Isolde's attendants and was among those who distracted Soth from his quest to prevent the cataclysm. For her deeds, she's cursed to live as a ghost, but she's also a curse on Soth and works to stymie his ambitions. She can't stand against Soth alone and earnestly seeks to aid you. After sharing the information here, she vanishes. You explore more of the Citadel, searching for the Mirror of Reflected Past. In doing so, you encounter a familiar individual. It is the ghost of Caradoc, possessing the body of a veteran in Kalaman armor. Caradoc is eager to speak with you. He wishes to enlist you in a plot to betray Lord Soth and steal the Flying Citadel for himself. Soth is higher up in the ruins, where he controls the Flying Citadel using a throne linked to the cataclysmic fire holding the Citadel aloft. Worston Krynn, Soth's standard bearer, guards the brazier containing the cataclysmic fire. You have a brief truce with Caradoc and head to Lord Soth's throne room. There, you obtain the Mirror of a Reflected Past. Afterwards, travel to the ruins in which he is located in order to stop the Citadel. You present the Mirror of Reflected Past to Lord Soth, which distracts him. Lord Soth looks longingly into the mirror and whispers the name, Isolde. In the middle of the room is a brazier filled with violet flames that is being protected by an undead former knight of Solamnia. This is Worston Krynn. When she notices you, she salutes you and demands you either submit and join the service of her master, Lord Soth, or face her in honorable one-to-one combat. You deny her request, and Krynn fights to the death. Once defeated, you break the brazier and thus ends the Flying Citadel. You feel the flying island beneath you lurch to a stop. Everything is silent for a moment. Then, with the sound of a distant crack, the ground begins to shudder. A split runs through the floor and up a nearby wall. The Citadel is breaking apart. The floor underneath Lord Soth gives way while he is distracted, plunging him into a deep fall. Before you can even attempt to escape, an animate dragon skeleton larger than any other you've seen bursts through the crumbling ground, its body still blazing with violet flames. This is Caraveris, the first and most powerful of the death dragons. In life, she was the gold dragon Sarlamir slew during his quest to the flying city of Anyari. Before she attacks, she roars, "Sarlamir, I won't be driven from the skies again. I'll have my revenge on you and all humans." Then, she fights to the death. After the dragon's defeated, You head to an opening of the citadel where you find Krynn waiting for you with a getaway Dragonlance. Soon you soar into the sky and make it back onto solid ground. As the flying citadel tilts precariously, massive boulders fall to the earth, taking Dragon Army troops with them. Below, the Dragon Army scatters to avoid the rain of destruction, but the flying citadel's ruins crush its forces in droves. You travel back to Kalaman to aid in protecting the city, but are stopped. A streak of red sweeps low over the battlefield, crashing through dozens of retreating enemies. At the last moment, it sweeps upward, and a mighty red dragon perches atop a stone spire fallen from the citadel above. On the dragon's back sits a woman with short white hair and Dragon Army armor. She levels a vicious spike at you as her left eye, a crimson gemstone, smolders with magical flame. This is Consaldi Fire Eyes, leader of the Red Dragon Army. She's a fanatical follower of the Dragon Queen and vents righteous rage on you. She states that the Dragon Queen's victory is inevitable. You might have delayed Kalaman's fall, but Consaldi's troops are a mere fraction of the Dragon Army's forces. Her master will return with greater numbers. Agents from the Blue Dragon Army are gathering other floating pieces of the City of Lost Names. One way or another, the Dragon armies will conquer the skies. You battle with her and her red dragon, defeating the two of them in your final battle. As she dies, Consaldi whispers to you that her death is the sacrifice Takisi's wants and that victory is now assured. With the defeat of the Red Dragon Army, you return to a hero's welcome in Kalaman. Adventure ending. Your allies, including Darrett and Marshal Ventry, are among the first to express their awe and thanks on behalf of the entire city. Truly, Kalaman wouldn't have survived if it were not for you. The city spends the rest of the day repairing the city's fortifications and honoring those who died in the city's defense, but the night is filled with celebration and song. Heroes, alive and dead, are honored with medals and speeches. Governor Thren and Marshal Ventry personally thank you. Before all assembled, Ventry pronounces you completed the terms of your involvement with Kalaman's defenders. After the celebrations, a Kalaman soldier delivers a message for you, which was left with the guard at Castle Kalaman's gate. The letter is sealed with blue wax bearing the Dragon Queen's symbol and reads as follows. Congratulations, hero of Kalaman. I toast your bravery and daring. I could use an audacious soul such as yourself, and will be watching your exploits with interest. Your city has escaped the Dragon Queen's grasp today, but none can defy her will for long. I hope that when we first meet, it won't be among Kalaman's ruins. The message bears no signature, but the seal is the symbol of the Dragon Queen impressed upon a blue wax, suggesting an agent of the Blue Dragon Army. Hello everybody! I hope y'all enjoyed my brief retelling of the story in Dragonlance Shadow of the Dragon Queen. I really wanted to get this video out as soon as possible, so I had to really skimp out on the editing. The moment the adventure was released, I got to work reading it and constructing this video. Anyways, hopefully y'all enjoyed this adventure as much as I did. If you liked the video, please give me a like and subscribe. I really appreciate all the support I've been getting on my videos. And as always, thanks.